Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another episode of DogCatFox and Friend. He's DogCatFox.
Wowie wow wow.
And I'm the friend. And welcome to the show. Welcome to Saturday. Bit of an odd situation. I don't usually cover live news on this broadcast, as it's usually just talking about stories I've seen over the course of the week or so that might be interesting to me. But there is something going on live right now, which I'm keeping an eye on because I hate these things, if you can believe it. There has been a mass shooting at Brown University in Providence, Rhode Island. As of this moment, the suspect is not in custody, or a suspect is not in custody, despite conflicting reports to the contrary earlier. Number of people injured and or killed is unknown at this time. There was a initial report of some 20 casualties, but as to what extent, don't know. And so this is happening right now as I speak. And it's ongoing. I'm keeping an eye on things to see if there's an update, hopefully in the near future, of having caught a person or ended the problem. But yeah, so that's happening right now. So it'll be a little bit different stream in that these kind of things, like I say, if you can believe it, concern me and worry me. And I hope that everybody involved is okay. Save for the person holding the gun, but I guess we'll find out as we go. But I'll keep an eye on that as I can over the course of the broadcast, and if any major updates I spot, I will let you know. Though, of course, you can monitor this yourself if you'd like. I don't mind. As compared to what I'm going to be talking about today, pales in comparison. But anyway, not to bring the show down before we've even started, but who's joining me on this beautiful Saturday afternoon? Blue-Eyed Scream, hello. Noah Sencio, hello. Molly Okami, hello. Mr. E. Triumvirate, hello. Shady Grin, hello. Hello, please do not sing to me. I appreciate the thought, though. Oh, okay, well. I aim to please, even if that means doing nothing at all. But happy birthday, Shady Grin. Kieverdam, hello, and thank you, Kieverdam, as always, for providing the link. Guys, at the top of the chat box, there's a link to a GoFundMe for a longtime follower of mine, Tara Sin, or Evelyn. Their house burnt down. She and her boyfriend's house burnt down, and they need help. They're just looking for $5,000. As of this moment, they're at $627. So if you have the ability to donate and can spare a couple of bucks, please do so. I know it's a particular time of year, money's tight. But even if you can't donate, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Kieverdam, for providing the link. Jay Blizza, hello. Derek LaRue, as always, thank you, Derek, so much for your generosity and support. Very much appreciated. Hope you're having a good day and hope you enjoy the show. Attack Alpaca, hello. Funtime Bats, hello. Resolute Germ, hello. Some Nemnul Nation, hello. Ryan R. 20,000. Is that the brand new model? Mike Savage, blarg. John Trioxon, hello. And Simon Willikins, hello. Duck Dog, hello. Suzanne Alarachard, good afternoon. Unfair Ophelia, hello. And Green Badger Outdoors, hello. Okay, so, do we have anything latest? Okay, so, small update. President Trump, a few minutes ago, had sent out a tweet telling the world the suspect was in custody. He got the same wrong information that everybody else had there for about half an hour. Their suspect is not in custody. So there's someone running around in near on Brown University, Providence, Rhode Island, still at large, as of this moment. I will keep you informed as I become informed. Mark Fields, thank you so much, Mark. Nice to see you. Positive vibes to you all. I wish you all a wonderful evening. Same back at you, Mark. Hope you're doing well. I think I saw you in the chat on Friday when I popped into Midnight's Edge. I could be mistaken, but hope you're having a good day. So I'd love to be able to say I'm starting off with a story that is counter in mood to the ongoing news right now, but it's not, because it's kind of a tragic story so far, and I don't know all the details are out. Actor Peter Green was lying face down on the floor with blood everywhere when police found him dead. Now, you might not know the name Peter Green off the top of your head, and I don't blame you. Peter Green I have to say now, was a character actor. He was probably best known as the villain in The Mask with Jim Carrey, Zed from Pulp Fiction, and Redfoot from Usual Suspects. I think I probably remember him the most from Pulp Fiction, but also he was in Judgment Night. If you haven't seen Judgment Night, Ranting Monkey and I did a review of Judgment Night many moons ago. It's one of those guilty pleasure movies. Emilio Estevez, Jeremy Piven, Dennis Leary in a dark, gritty, urban action-adventure movie. And Cuba Gooding Jr. Don't forget Cuba Gooding Jr. Those are all things that happened back in the 90s. But yeah, actor Peter Green was reportedly discovered lying face down on the floor with a strange note when police found him dead on Friday. Peter was lying on the floor face down, facial injury, blood everywhere. A neighbor described of the gruesome scene to the New York Daily News. The outlet additionally reported that a strange handwritten note was found on the scene along with the actor's body. And there he is in some not very flattering pictures, I'd say, but there you go. I'm still a Westie, it read, referring to the 1970s Irish-American gang that operated out of Hell's Kitchen. A rep for Green did not immediately respond to Page Six's request for comment. Green was pronounced dead on Friday after he was found unresponsive in his Lower East Side apartment on Clinton Street. Around 3:25 p.m., he was 60 years old. Police told the Post that no foul play was suspected, but that a cause of death will be determined by the medical examiner. Green was the father of a 16-year-old son, Ryder. The Pulp Fiction star's death was confirmed by his longtime manager, Greg Edwards, who remembered the late actor as a terrific guy in a statement to the outlet. Truly one of the great actors of our generation. His heart was as big as there was. I'm going to miss him. He was a great friend, he said. So I guess if there's no foul play was suspected, then it was self-inflicted or something. Anyway, yeah, so that happened, and I was kind of surprised because, again, it's one of those faces that you recognize. Don't recall the name right off the bat, but it's like, But a little bit mysterious. But for those of you who are movie geeks, that's that news, unfortunately. Let's see, checking over at the news so far. Nothing of note yet developed on the shooting in Rhode Island. I'll probably be going back and forth between articles over there to see what the latest is, but let's see, Jay Blizza. I assumed he died of natural causes, didn't know he was murdered. Well, they're saying there's no foul play suspected, so I guess right now they're not calling it some kind of, intentional act by an outside party. I mean, found face down with a face injury. I mean, unless he fell and the note was just coincidental or something. Don't know. But there you go. Tragic, says Mark Fields, yep. And hello, Resolute Journal. But yeah, so that just happened. That was just breaking earlier today. And so whenever I see like an actor death of somebody that I recognize or appreciated their work, I get a little sad. But there's that. What else? Oh, the video game awards were this week, and a whole bunch of previews and teasers and such were released. And one of these little pieces of news, I thought to myself at the time, wow, there was a time I'd be ridiculously excited for this news. The fact that I'm not says a lot to me, but maybe to you too. New Star Wars video game, Fate of the Old Republic, set from Lucasfilm and Mass Effect director. Okay, Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, the video game, the RPG, the CRPG, from way back in the day, is one of mine, and I think a lot of people from that generation's favorite games, because it was so well written for what it was. At the time, you had multiple choices. It really delved into the world of Star Wars, but also gave you something completely new to have a playground with in your imagination. Something which Disney had absolutely no idea what to do with by the time that they took over. It spawned 2 games and a MMORPG. The first 2 games are classics. The second game is better if you have the full restoration mod. because that game was rushed out the door. It still boggles me to this day that they wouldn't give the sequel to one of the most beloved RPGs ever a little extra time to cook, as the kids say, before putting it out. But they put it out in an unfinished state with a whole bunch of missing stuff, and only because of the dedication and passion of fans was much of, not all, but much of that content restored, because a lot of it was in the game files, a lot of notes were in there, a lot of sound files that were unused. And so, yeah, if you get Knights of the Old Republic 2, be sure, and I think it might come with it now, but be sure that you have the restoration mod in there, because it really makes the game... It was pretty good even in a broken state, but it was much better after being fixed. Mark Fields, again, thank you so much. The mystery behind Julian Sands of Treasure. You know, I was just, you know, Mark, when you brought that, when I was thinking about this story, just as I was reading it earlier, I was just about to mention Julian Sands as another one of those actors who died tragically, and mysteriously in this case, but you might not know the name of, but you might recognize. That still is bizarre. I know it's kind of weird. I think they should name the area he was found in. I think they should rename it to Julian Sands. I think that makes more sense to me. But yeah, it's just so bizarre. Also, Jill Powers, the River Daughter. Good evening, Scribelight and Scribblerians. Hi, Jill. Hope you're having a good day. And Read by Nature. I thought it was funny the statue in the desert turned out to be for another Divinity RPG game by Larian Studios. Yeah, Divinity. I never finished that game. I got Divinity Original Sin, and I could never get into it. I don't know what it was. I played through, about a couple hours worth, and I just stopped. I just stopped caring. I couldn't keep track of all the storylines. I couldn't get invested in what was going on. I never finished that game. I didn't care. So I don't know. I guess some people like Divinity. I couldn't get into it. But yeah, last thing I would have suspected. I saw the pictures of that statue out in the desert, and I thought for sure it was going to be something related to Doom or God of War or something. But Divinity? Yeah. But anyway, Fate of the Old Republic. Yeah, I gotta say, the first game's great. The second game's pretty good. Better with the restoration mod. The MMORPG, oh boy. I put so much time in that and so much money into that game in the early years. Oh, it's good to a point. Like most MMORPGs, it can't really sustain itself. The interesting thing about that game was it was all fully voiced. You had 8 different class stories to go through, 4 on either side of either the Empire or the Republic. Some were better than others. The best ones were Imperial Agent and the Sith Warrior. Those are the 2 best stories. Third down would probably be the Smuggler story. Everything else was, not terrible, but not great. The worst story was probably Jedi Consular or Republic Trooper. One of those 2 is probably the worst. But then at a certain point, the budget and the production of the entire thing had to winnow down to one storyline, one unified storyline. So the sense that you were playing a story custom to your class and your character's story withered very quickly into a very homogenous storyline for everybody. And I stopped playing roundabouts. I think it was after the Hutt Cartel expansion where that happened, where they unified all the storylines. And I came back a few years later to play a bit. But after all I could do was just gain more titles and things, it just became it petered out. But apparently they're going back. A new Star Wars video game, Fate of the Old Republic, was announced Thursday during the 2025 Game Awards. Arcanaut Studios. We've all heard of Arcanaut Studios unveiled a teaser trailer of the video game live during this year's ceremony. According to an official description, quote, Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic is a narrative-driven single-player action RPG. Single-player RPG where you step into the role of a Force user on a journey through the galaxy on the edge of rebirth. Okay. Oh, something else that the MMORPG The Old Republic did wrong was they ruined Revan as a character. It would be a long sit for me to explain why, but the storyline, they decided to keep Revan as a relevant character from the original games and forward into this MMORPG. They ruined him. They really did. Just didn't work out. Developed in collaboration with Lucasfilm Games, which is not the Lucasfilm Games of my era. The project will be led by Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Mass Effect trilogy director Casey Hudson, who serves as game director at Argonaut Studios. Okay, that might be the one plus point, is they've got somebody who knows how the original worked to make this one. I'm just worried that the influence of Lucasfilm still to this day under Kathleen Kennedy is going to turn into an absolute mess. Quote, working on Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic was one of the defining experiences of my career, Hudson said in a statement. Or Hudson in a statement, says Variety. With Star Wars Fate of the Old Republic, we're telling a completely new and different story with everything we've learned since, crafting an adventure about choice, destiny, and the timeless struggle between light and dark. It's a dream come true to once again collaborate with Lucasfilm Games. Blah-de-blah, blah, 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 blah. I'm not quite sure how they're going to do that. That so much extra lore was pumped into the setting because of the MMORPG. And as far as I know, it's still going on. So I assume this has to take place after all of that or before the Old Republic storyline kicks off. I forget how much time was supposed to pass between Knights of the Old Republic 2 and the Old Republic. So maybe that's where they're setting it. I don't know. I watched the trailer. I saw a couple of things that, suggest it's a completely animated CGI cutscene. It doesn't tell you anything. It's not gameplay footage. And aren't we still waiting for a game called Star Wars Eclipse? What happened to Star Wars Eclipse? It was supposed to take place during the High Republic. I'm not sad that it might be going or has gone away. But, but I looked at that story and I was like, man, that little piece of me from, 20 years ago that was still excited about Star Wars and such a Star Wars nerd, and I had all this lore stuck up in my head, and I was really excited. Oh my gosh, Old Republic, yeah! And I was like, where are you? Little piece of me, where are you? Oh yeah, that's right. You're a tiny, tiny, tiny little ember of what you used to be because of what Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, and everybody has done to the Star Wars franchise over the last 10 plus years. It's really sad. Mark Fields, how things used to be. This is why I play D&D. Well, D&D's not been immune from tampering. But if you've got 3.5, or even if you take the best interpretation of 5th edition D&D, you're probably still in good shape. But really, as far as when it comes to role-playing games, you take whatever edition came out circa either before or just after 2004 and just don't go any further. don't go any further. If there's a classic tabletop RPG that you like, stop at whatever edition was out in the early 2000s and go no further. Because that's probably about as safe as you're going to get. Did the Game Awards make you want to try Claire Obscure Expedition 33? No. And not because I have some, hate monger for that game. I don't even know what it's about. It looks like Final Fantasy-ish kind of stuff, and I never really got into Final Fantasy. And if it's not like Final Fantasy, again, I haven't played it. I don't know much about it. All I know is just the aesthetic of it and that kind of game, weird high fantasy stuff. It's a really tough mountain to climb for me. So I'm not. That's the short answer. The answer's no. Midnight's Edge After Dark. Tom Connors. Guys, if you don't know about Midnight's Edge or Midnight's Edge After Dark, go check them out. Midnight's Edge After Dark is unfortunately currently experiencing a demonetization from YouTube for reasons completely irrational, as far as I can tell. It would not be the first time that one of my friends has been zapped by YouTube for unjustified reasons. So if you want to go show some support, go check out Midnight's Edge After Dark and subscribe. Or otherwise, if you already are, be sure to check out Tom Connors and Midnight's Edge After Dark Twitter accounts for notices about this demonetization and rebroadcast that stuff out. So maybe YouTube gets some attention or gets YouTube's attention to address it. Because if a channel can be demonetized because it was related to another channel in some obscure way, I don't know that anybody's safe. So, Mr. Reed, My Realm is 2nd edition. I have been in existence for the last 43 years. I'm not learning new goddamn rules. Yeah, whatever system you're comfortable with or familiar with or makes the most sense to you. And as far as the settings concerned, like I say, it's the settings that have been messed with by social justice and activists getting into the game industry and things. That really ticks me out. It ticked me off for Vampire the Masquerade, third ed master race over here, V20 at the worst, but you can still do pretty good with third ed stuff and some second ed stuff. Ghoul's Fatal Addiction is still like the definitive Ghoul book. You don't need anything else. And it's a second ed book. All the rules work for third ed. You don't need anything else. Anyway, I could go on. Read by Nature. Eclipse is by David Gage, so I'm not personally invested in that one, but I get the impression there's a low-key effort to cancel him from the usual types. I don't know that name offhand. All I know is that Eclipse, the game, was set in the High Republic. It had a fancy CGI cutscene trailer that told you nothing and went nowhere, and the game has not been seen since it was announced, 4 or 5 years ago? And so I'm also kind of wary as to whether or not Fate of the Old Republic will be released. But I can't say I'm not going to get it, because it's not impossible that I could be convinced. If the Star Wars uber nerds out there tell me that, hey, this is a really good game. It's not Star Wars Outlaws. It's not... whatever else. Have they produced any meaningful Star Wars games in the last several years? Or the changes that they made to Old Republic? Okay, maybe. But I'll wait and see, because I'm still not sure that even if they got one of the original guys from Knights of the Old Republic on there, that it's not going to be managed by Lucasfilm to be a harbinger of the message. So, I guess we will wait and see. Get to Trump and... Okay, all right. Well, the customer's always right. Okay. All right. So, anyway, Trump seeks to cut restrictions on marijuana through planned order. The president is expected to direct agencies to reclassify marijuana as a Schedule III drug, similar to some common prescription painkillers. Yeah, marijuana is currently Schedule I, which puts it on the same level as, cocaine. But... as with everything else, I'll believe it when I see it. President Donald Trump is expected to push the government to dramatically loosen federal restrictions on marijuana, reducing oversight of the plant and its derivatives to the same level as some common prescription painkillers and other drugs, according to 6 people familiar with the discussions. Trump discussed the plan with House Speaker Mike Johnson in a Wednesday phone call from the Oval Office, said 4 of the people who, like the others, spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. The president is expected to seek to ease access to the drug through an upcoming executive order that directs federal agencies to pursue reclassification, the people said. Now, this is interesting to me because there is plenty of pushback from the right on doing this, or has been classically. So, an executive order, he doesn't need congressional authority or congressional consent. But I am surprised. I am surprised because there's not a small amount of the right base would be against this, as far as I understand it. Duck Dog, thank you so much. Customers are only right in matters of taste and fashion. But yeah, Star Wars sucks right now. Yeah. Well, Star Wars has sucked since 2015. Star Wars sucked as soon as they announced they were killing off the expanded universe. That was the gut punch to me. And it still hasn't healed. Not to sound too much like a child on it, but seriously, it's like, hey, you know all this stuff you've been following for like the last, 20, 30 years of your life? Yeah, no, it didn't happen. It didn't happen. It was similar, just as an aside. Sorry, Tom, I know you want to get me back to pot. I know marijuana's high on the list here. It reminded me a lot of what Marvel did to Spider-Man back in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, where the Clone Saga, where they came out and said, oh yeah, the Spider-Man you've been following this whole time, yeah, he was actually the clone that died in that whole Jackal thing that happened back in the 70s. So technically, you haven't been following the adventures of Peter Parker. You've been following the adventures of a duplicate. They eventually reversed that or whatever, but at the time I was just, no, you don't, no, that's, and they just wouldn't get rid of that storyline. My God, that went on forever. The clone storyline should have been like maybe a 4 or 5 issue thing, and then they should have resolved it, but it just kept going and going and going. And it has led us, in no small way, I think, to the absolute oversaturation of spider beings in the Marvel Universe since then. What's special about Spider-Man anymore? Nothing. Nothing. Anyway, back to pot. The move would not legalize or decriminalize marijuana, but it would ease barriers to research and boost the bottom lines of legal businesses. Trump in August said he was looking at reclassification. He would be finishing what started under President Joe Biden's Justice Department, which followed in the recommendation of federal health officials in proposing a rule to reclassify marijuana. That proposal has stalled since Trump took office. Quote, we're looking at it. Some people like it. Some people hate it, Trump said this summer. Some people hate the whole concept of marijuana because it does bad things for the children. It does bad for the people that are older than children, unquote. Anything used in excess is bad for you. Even the lead singer of INXS did bad things to himself. But anyway, Trump cannot unilaterally reclassify marijuana, said Shane Pennington, a D.C. attorney who represents 2 pro-rescheduling companies involved in the litigation. But he can direct the Justice Department to forego a pending administrative court hearing and issue the final rule. Quote, this would be the biggest reform in federal cannabis policy since marijuana was made a Schedule I drug in the 1970s, Pennington said. The president joined on the Wednesday call with Johnson by marijuana industry executives, Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Chief Mehmet Oz, 3 of the people said. I can dive deeper. I don't want to dive deeper. Johnson was skeptical of the idea and gave a list of reasons, including several studies and data, to support his position against reclassifying the drug, 2 of the people said. Trump then turned the phone over to executives gathered around the desk who rebutted Johnson's arguments, the people said. Trump ended the call appearing ready to go ahead with loosening restrictions on marijuana, the people said, though they cautioned the plans were not finalized and Trump could still change his mind. That's why I say I'll believe it when I see it, because talking about doing it is not doing it. A White House official said no final decisions have been made on rescheduling of marijuana. The Department of Health and Human Services referred questions to the White House. The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services did not immediately respond to a request for comment. A representative from Johnson's office declined to comment. Now, I'm curious, and I don't know if the article will say, I'm curious to know if he does do this, since it's not technically a congressional reclassification or an official reclassification kind of thing. If he does this, will this allow marijuana retail businesses to start, putting their money into banks? Because one of the problems for these businesses has been, since marijuana is still a illegal substance, profits from it can't be handled by regular banks because then they would be participating in a crime. And so that's why you see pot shops all the time having amazingly huge security issues with thefts and everything else, because they basically have to keep all the cash on site until they can find a way to deal with it in most cases. So that's something I'm curious to see what will happen. Let's see. Marijuana is currently classified as a Schedule 1 substance, the same classification as heroin and LSD. Federal regulations consider those drugs to have high potential for abuse and no accepted use for medical treatment. Trump would move to classify marijuana as a Schedule 3 substance, which regulators say carry less potential for abuse and are used for certain medical treatments, but can also create risks of physical or psychological dependence. Other Schedule 3 drugs include Tylenol with codeine, as well as certain steroid and hormone treatments. Let's see. Marijuana has become easier than ever to obtain, growing into an industry worth billions of dollars in the United States. Dozens of states and Washington, D.C. have legalized medical marijuana programs, and 24 have approved recreational marijuana. Okay. So, yeah, nothing on the banking or anything else. But hey, this is something, at least ostensibly, I've been in favor of since the early 2000s. I can say around the same time that same-sex marriage became such a hot topic. It's one of those things that made me a lefty back in the olden days. You want to legalize marijuana? And I'm not even a pothead. I have tried it twice, and both times they were on birthdays, and I didn't like it. The first time, nothing happened as far as I can tell. And then the second time, I just got nauseous, and I didn't like it. I don't even like the smell. Like, I can walk down the street and I can get that. I sometimes, depending on who's around, I guess I can get that familiar stench in the air. I'd be like, ugh. But, at the same time, I'm like, I haven't had anybody show me it's any more dangerous than half a dozen other things that are legal anyway. So, but yeah. So, there you go. Let's see, Tom Connor. So that's because you got to do it 3 times. Oh, is that it? It's like Candyman? Yeah, Bloody Mary. Got to look in the mirror. That's the ritual. Yeah. Let's see. Read by nature. It hangs in the air worse than cigarettes. Yeah, I never liked it. There's only one smoked product smell that I kind of like, and those are clove cigarettes. Yeah, I was raised by goths in college, and man, the smell of those clove cigarettes, I forget the brand they kept using. It was started with like it was like Dejar or something, DJ, something like that. It was some fancy brand, and oh man, everybody looked so cool with them. I never had one myself. I've never smoked a cigarette. Well, okay, I have the first cigarette I'll ever smoke. I think I've told this story before. It was 7th grade, and I was at like a concert thing, like a local concert deal. And the venue had this sort of lounge area in the back. And I was sitting back there, and a friend I knew from junior high at the time, he was handing out the last cigarettes from his pack. And he's like, "You want a cigarette?" And I said, "Oh, I don't smoke." And I started walking by, and I said, wait a second. I'll take one. And he says, "You said you don't smoke." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what. If I ever decide to smoke, this will be the first one that I smoke." I still have that cigarette to this day. It's sitting in a box in the other room. It's probably deadly at this point, which is even more of a disincentive to actually starting to smoke. So yeah, I do have the first cigarette I'll ever smoke. Just haven't smoked it yet. So there, a little bit of Scribe Light lore for you. Frosted Glass, never tried pot, but I've walked through the Walmart parking lot, so I think that's close enough. But yeah, it smells like gas. Yeah, when they call it skunk weed, they're not kidding. I'm not even sure that I've ever gotten even a contact high off of it. But yeah, at college and, at random instances where I'm walking down the street or something, I might catch a whiff. But that's as close as I've gotten to. Okay, regarding the mass shooting, there is an unconfirmed report of 20 people injured and 2 dead. As of this moment, the suspect is not in custody, and today was the second day of final examinations. Apparently there's a press conference going on right now. Or there's supposed to be a press conference starting. I don't want to go dead air on here, but I'm Okay, I'll keep an eye on that. There's a press conference happening right now to update everybody on what's going on. Okay. It's still early hours in the incident. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I don't mean to do dead air. I'm just trying to listen to this and make sure I've got the latest. Okay, our announcer is going over everybody's names and really stretching out the fact that this is all early information. Okay, yeah, we get it. You're going to be transparent. Why don't you tell people what's up? Okay, so here we go. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. This guy is going on and on about how this is early information and this can change, so don't get too... Just say it. Okay. This guy is a terrible, terrible announcer of news. He's going over like, oh, we prayed this day would never come. I understand that. Okay, tell us what's going on. You know, we've had lots of acts of gun violence in this country. Yeah, we know. Tell us what's going on. This is supposed to be a press conference to tell people what's going on. And you know, it's a terrible thing that has happened here today. Yeah, we know it's a terrible thing that's happened here today. What has happened? Get on with it. Okay. Okay, there are 2 deceased. 8 people are in critical status, but stable. Okay. Okay, so at this time, 10 people, 10 casualties, 2 are deceased, 8 are in critical condition. Okay. Yes, now what about the shooter? Come on, I'm sorry guys, I'm watching this, I can't rebroadcast this. Okay, shooter is not in custody, 10 casualties so far, 2 deceased, 8 in critical condition but stable in hospital. That's the latest on the shooting in Providence, Rhode Island. So I'll move on from that and try not to give too much. I get very wary about dead air or talking to things you guys can't hear. I'm sorry, but it was the only way to sort of like wait for this guy to say something, you know, substantive. Anyway, if anything changes or comes up, I'll let you guys know. Assassin of the Gray, thank you so much. The only thing worse than terrorists, are pot smokers who assume that as their sole personality trait, they have the noive to claim it's not addictive. This is true. I mean, it depends on the person. It really does depend on the person. I've known people who are very, very casual with it, and I know people who have come to use it as a crutch. I think it's more of a psychological addiction than a chemical one, but I guess it depends on what you're smoking or what your personality is. If you have an addictive personality, it really doesn't matter. But there you go. So anyway, guys, I don't mean to try to interweave live events with what is effectively like a review show of articles over the week, but this is the world that we're living in right now. So if and when something else comes up, I will let you know. I'm keeping an eye on it. That is the latest information on the mass shooting at Brown University. Okay, moving on. Maybe to something a little bit more humorous, perhaps? I don't know. Let's talk about Google removes AI videos of Disney characters after cease and desist letter. This story is really interesting to me for many different reasons, and it mostly has to do with OpenAI and their deal with Disney. But let's get into the article here and talk about it. Google has removed dozens of AI-generated videos that depict Disney-owned characters after receiving a cease and desist letter from the studio on Wednesday. Disney flagged the YouTube links to the videos in its letter and demanded that Google remove them immediately. The AI videos included Mickey Mouse, Deadpool, and characters from Star Wars and The Simpsons, many of which were made using Google's AI video tool, Veo. The links were still working on Thursday, but now reroute to a message that reads, "This video is no longer available due to a copyright claim by Disney." Disney launched the broadside shortly before announcing a deal to license 200 characters to OpenAI, which will allow Sora users to create short AI clips. Okay, so here's the thing. OpenAI is in a crisis. All right, OpenAI is leveraged up in something like $7 trillion or more of projects for data centers. It's a very complicated web of financing and everything else, but OpenAI has bet so high on the value of their product, and Sora in particular, that they have obligations out there in the trillions of dollars. Now, how much do you think Sora, subscription-based Sora, is making? Do you think it's making trillions of dollars? Do you think it's making enough to fortify these expenditures? This is the problem. AI in general, the AI industry, is building so much infrastructure, is investing in so much in the way of data centers and technology and electricity. You have to ask yourself, is there enough of a monetizable demand for the product to justify the infrastructure? Will the actual consumer use of this stuff pay for what they're building? I don't think so. And what Sora produces for the most part is AI slop, right? It's just meme clips and things. And do they make the company any money? Because you have to remember, for every Sora video you produce, somewhere the OpenAI data center processing power is making that thing happen in a relatively short amount of time, right? When you say, here's a prompt, and it sits there for 5 or 10 minutes generating the thing, and then it's produced, all of that computing power, all of that electricity, all of that hardware that's necessary to make that happen in that relatively brief period of time is eating up money that is not being covered by your subscription to that service. So if I make 50 videos in a month, I'm probably costing OpenAI far more than my subscription price is paying for. And they're willing to do this to try to gather an audience, but it's not leading to anything, and it probably won't. Plus the fact that OpenAI, like so many other AI platforms, is not innocent of having swept up copyrighted material from Disney and other IPs and companies since their inception to create the stuff that they've created. So OpenAI is as susceptible to a lawsuit from Disney as anybody else. But now that they've made a deal with Disney, I assume they are held harmless from such lawsuits. And now they get to be the pass-through for any content made by people using Sora, using those Disney characters, which Disney will now take and put onto Disney Plus if it passes muster, that they will then monetize it themselves. And of course, the people that generated the stuff, even if you don't think that putting in prompts is much work, it isn't much work, but it's some kind of labor, won't be compensated. So it's this weird cyclical kind of thing. Plus, OpenAI is now effectively advertising that it will be the premier pass-through for AI-generated content for major studios, right? Because if Disney's willing to get on with OpenAI, why wouldn't Warner? Why wouldn't Lionsgate or anybody else not want to have a safe, secured, and actionable set of licensed characters and content that other people can't touch without a cease and desist? But yeah, this is a move by OpenAI that is very interesting, given where they're at. I mean, Sam Altman has basically been begging for a federal bailout because OpenAI is going down pretty quick. They're not making enough to justify or pay off all their obligations. $1 billion from Disney. This is the funny thing. $1 billion with Disney is a drop, literally a drop in the proverbial bucket of everything that OpenAI is responsible for when it comes to finances right now. Duck Dog, I'll give Tara $50 if you do the next story with your avatar. The next story after, okay, sold. You got it. That's kind of a reversal, kind of a reverse face reveal. Let's hope that I can turn off my camera without ending the stream. Because that's what happened last time. I tried to switch over to my avatar and I turned off my camera and ended the stream, basically. Let's hope that doesn't happen. I will give it my best shot here in a moment, Duck Dog. I'll give my best shot. Okay, anyway. Moving on, the company has sought to draw a line in the sand to protect its characters from unlicensed AI use. In the cease and desist letter, Disney also provided a long list of characters it wants removed from YouTube and YouTube Shorts, including those from Frozen, Moana, Toy Story, Deadpool, Iron Man, Lilo and Stitch, and Winnie the Pooh. In a statement on Thursday, Google said it would work with Disney on the issue. Quote, "We have a long-standing and mutually beneficial relationship with Disney and will continue to engage with them," the company said. Quote, "More generally, we use public data from the open web. Public data to build our AI and have built additional innovative copyright controls like Google Extended and Content ID for YouTube, which gives sites and copyright holders control over their content," unquote. Until now, because you weren't, because those videos were there. So, Disney also demanded that Google implement safeguards to prevent its AI tools from generating Disney-owned characters. It had also demanded that Google cease using Disney's characters to train its AI models. Yep, and this is going to become more common. We've talked about it on Midnight's Edge in the past. Studios and IP holders and everything are going to have to establish officially licensed data sets of their characters. That if you decide to make something with AI using any of their copyrighted characters or anything else that you didn't draw from paying for or licensing their bank of information, then you're in violation and you get a lawsuit. And it only makes sense, right? Like if you want to use your AI to train on Disney information, you have to license our database. If you don't, you're done. If you want to make some new event or something using any of our characters, you have to license our database. It's where it's going. It's where it's going to have to go. Okay, so let me try to switch over to my avatar. If I can do this without screwing everything up. Okay, so there's my avatar. I don't want to stop the mic or the cam. I just want to switch over to my avatar. How do I do that without turning off the stream? Okay. I'm going to try this. If I disappear, I'm going to try to come back. So just hold on. To help out Tara, I will do that. There we go. Okay. I don't know how to do it in stream to switch off my camera and bring up my avatar, but there we go. So Duck Dog, your wish is my command. As the customer, you're always right. And thank you so much, Duck Dog, for your generosity. It's very nice of you, especially this time of year. Again, guys, this is all for Tara Sin, or Evelyn, the GoFundMe at the top of the chat box. She and her boyfriend, their house burnt down. They need some help. If you can donate, please do so. And thank you, Duck Dog, ahead of time for your generosity. It's very nice of you. And so I will continue the rest of the stream as an avatar, like the olden days, for the time being. Let's move on to a different financial situation that, boy, oh boy, guys, can you believe it? Can you believe that Black Lives Matter is a scam? Has been a scam the entire time? You know, it's really depressing that something that has been basically not even a secret for almost a decade and a half now is only now seemingly coming to light for some people. Boggles the mind. Black Lives Matter's billion-dollar grift is still spitting up scammers. The Black Lives Matter grift continues to pay dividends for the hucksters and scammers who cozened billions of dollars out of American institutions eager to pay big to avoid condemnation as racists. I mean, fear of being called racist has caused more misery and harm in the last 20 years than maybe any other social movement. The fear of being called racist. The leverage of that word. The feds have indicted Tashella Dickerson, the director of the Oklahoma City BLM chapter. Franchise might be a better term. Thank you, New York Post. For a brazen $3 million fraud scheme. Dickerson, who has run the BLM affiliate for a decade, allegedly diverted millions from a BLM bail fund to pay for vacations, cars, and properties deeded in her name. She's by no means an anomaly. In fact, it would be unusual to find a BLM branch that didn't operate as a slush fund for its local leader. Last year, the DOJ indicted Sir Major Page, yes, that's right, the former director of Black Lives Matter for Greater Atlanta, for stealing $450,000 in donations. $450,000? That's peanuts, man. That's small potatoes. He allegedly used the cash to buy guns, clothing, and a home as he tried to register under a false name. The rot starts from the head. Patrice Cullors, a co-founder of the national BLM organization Black Lives Matter Global Network, made news in 2021 when it emerged that the outfit had purchased a $6 million Los Angeles compound that she was personally using. And none of this brings up any kind of legal repercussions, fraud at all. And it was only discovered in 2021. Why did it take that long? She's been active in this entire thing for a lot longer than that. It also paid her brother almost $1 million to provide security for the campus and employed her mother and sister. Cullors also purchased several other multi-million-dollar properties, including a ranch in Georgia that comes with an airplane hangar. Wow! The Justice Department has subpoenaed Cullors' BLMGN as it probes tens of millions that might have gone astray. Yeah, something that should have happened 10 years ago. But these outrages only scratch the surface of a massive shakedown operation that saw tens of billions of dollars pour from corporate and charitable entities into the hands of hundreds of racial activist groups in the years following the George Floyd riots. The Claremont Institute's Center for the American Way of Life's BLM funding database tracks the massive flow of funds from major companies to BLM and other racial justice activist groups and initiatives. Amazon pledged $170 million, Citigroup promised $1.1 billion, and Nike ponied up $140 million. Citigroup, you say? You know, I did a video on Citigroup several years ago where they were really, really excited to tell everybody how they were a racist company. If you want to know more about that, you can look up on my channel the video called A City Situation. Or an awfully city situation, is what I called it. Some of this money may have been used responsibly. Of course, it's hard to tell. But feeding billions to fly-by-night charities with weak governance structures left lots of room for abuse. The nation's unlikely to see anything exactly like the racial blackmail for personal profit schemes of the last half-decade. I don't know. Give it time. But the lesson here is a lot larger. Excuse me. I sneezed. I apologize. Crusaders who offered a seal of moral approval in exchange for bundles of cash are mostly likely looking out for themselves, not any higher cause. You don't say. You know, and yet we had plenty of these characters brought onto talk shows and hailed as heroes and, you know, name dropped by politicians and on and on and on. So, yeah, and if you can believe it, and it's been allowed to go on this long, because again, even though it was obvious to anybody with half a brain that this was all a scam, to even question it would risk being called racist. You just don't want this demographic to succeed, etc. and so forth. I'm glad I never gave $1 to any of these organizations. Not a single dime. But, man, the people who got money for it, you know, like Ibram X. Kendi and his, his Center for Anti-Racist Research or whatever over at, Boston University? Yeah, he got a no-strings-attached $10 million check from Jack Dorsey back in, summer of 2020, I think it was? Summer of Love. No strings attached $10 million. And he took that money and ran. Man... What were people thinking? I don't know. Bless you, says Duck Dog. Thank you, Duck Dog. And thank you again, Duck Dog, for the donation to Tara. Again, guys, the top of the chat box, link to the GoFundMe if you'd like to help out Tara and her boyfriend and her pets as they try to recover from a house fire. Appreciate it. Frostglass, now that the fraud's over, sure, let's donate to Palestine and Somalians. Oh, yeah, exactly. The grift don't stop. The grift don't stop. SEC is the United States Securities and Exchange Commission. Yes. It's true. Don't trust anything I say. Verify it if you take it from my words. Yep, trust but verify. The old Russian proverb made famous by Ronald Reagan. But something else that was made famous by Ronald Reagan, at least in concept, was that wall. You know, that wall that separates people. Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. Well, there's another wall that got breached. A prison wall in South Carolina. Drone drops steak and crab legs for prisoner feast, but South Carolina guards find it first. Yes, we have entered the 21st century of jail smuggling. Look at all that stuff. Crab legs, steak, something looks like tobacco, Marlboro cigarettes. Oh my gosh. Look at all that stuff. 'Twas 3 weeks before Christmas, and in the prison yard, a drone drop package was found by a guard, with steak, weed, and crab's legs and cigarettes for days, and to season it all, a tin of Old Bay. The illicit meal was dropped into the Lee Correctional Institution prison yard by a drone, the South Carolina Department of Corrections said on the social platform X with the hashtag #ContrabandChristmas. A photo from Bishopsville Prison showed a raw steak still in the grocery store packing, crab legs, and Old Bay with side plastic baggies of marijuana and a couple of cartons of cigarettes. The drone was also seized Sunday morning, authorities said. Prison officials said they are investigating and no arrests have been made. Quote, I'm guessing the inmates who are expecting the package are crabby, prison spokeswoman Christy Shane said. Keeping contraband out of state prisons is a constant battle. People would toss or use a catapult to get packages of cell phones, drugs, or other illegal items over the perimeter fence until officials raised the fences and added netting at the top. People trying to smuggle things behind bars moved on to drones, leaving corrections officials to constantly patrol the prison yard and just outside for the tiny aircraft trying to drop packages. Just flying a drone near a prison in South Carolina is a misdemeanor crime that carries up to 30 days in jail. Dropping contraband into the prison is a felony that can land someone behind bars for 10 years. Well, this is why they need to enclose all prisons now in chicken wire. And if they enclose all prisons in chicken wire, don't have to worry about it. At least I think so. Blue-eyed Scream, hiding things up your butt is a thing of the past. No. I bet you that still happens all the time. All the time. I bet you. Duck Dog, there is no news in the truth. Pravda is the risky word for truth, and the Communist Party newspaper. It's true. It's true. And surprised that isn't more a serious offense. Yeah, you'd think, I bet if they tried to smuggle a weapon in, you'd probably, over a drone or something, you'd probably get a much higher charge. But just contraband per se, otherwise things that were legal outside. Yeah. There was a show I used to watch. They used to put some episodes up on YouTube. It was like Border Security Australia. I think that was a whole series, like Border Security Canada and Border Security US. But there was a Border Security Australia because Australia has ridiculously strict import-export laws and all that kind of stuff. And I remember this one where a guy was acting suspicious, and they took him aside and they searched his bags, and there was nothing wrong in his bags. They couldn't find anything in the bags, but he kept looking really, really sweaty, and he looked really suspicious. He was acting all weird, and then they focused in on his shoes. There was, I believe it was heroin or something embedded in his shoes, and either the packaging or the sealant or whatever had failed. And so he was sweating in his shoes, and the moisture from his sweat was reacting with the drugs and it was seeping into his skin. And so he was standing there at airport security overdosing in front of them, and they didn't realize it until they had to take him to the hospital. I believe he survived, but then he was charged with drug smuggling and he got like 12 or 13 years in prison. So it's like not exactly the best plan. Not exactly the best plan. Let's see. Regarding the shooting in Providence, Rhode Island, again, as of right now, the suspect is still at large. 2 dead, 8 in critical condition. The suspect is a male dressed in black, as much as they have a description right now. And the press conference is still going on with them not probably saying anything more than we already know. So that's that. And that, as weird and truncated of a broadcast as I have because of live news and other things, that is the show, guys. A little off kilter because of the events of the day and everything. I apologize for that. But there you go. Programming note. As far as I know, unless something else comes up, Monday at 12:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time will be another edition of DEI Death Watch, where I'll take a look at the ups and downs and the doubling down and deterioration of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Take a look at some news stories from that realm of things on Monday. And then Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern will be the next episode of TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at another off-brand TED Talk for education and enlightenment. Let me look at a calendar real quick. Let me check something out here. I'm curious about something. Let's see, December 20. Yes, Christmas Day is Thursday. Oh my gosh, guys. Christmas Day falls on a Thursday this year. I'll be doing TED Xmas on Xmas. Oh boy, and it'll be a marathon. I'll do like 3 or 4 TEDx's on that day to keep company anybody who's not doing anything else more exciting on Christmas Day, and celebrate the holiday with you all for TED Xmas. Thankfully, I already have an intro video I created a couple years ago, so I'm good to go. And I got plenty of TEDx talks and TED Talks to keep us busy that day as we celebrate and feast and enjoy our presents. So looking forward to that in a couple of weeks. But otherwise, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donates, excuse me, whoa, whoa. A little air came up in my throat. And okay. Everybody who donated, either to myself or most especially at the top of the chat box, guys, to the GoFundMe to help out Evelyn/Terracin because of her house burning down. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Duck Dog in particular, thank you so much. Hope my switch over to the avatar was worth the cost to you. And elsewise, everyone, hope you have a good rest of your Saturday. Hope you have a good Sunday ahead of you. Hope you have a good week as well. Hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.